Unlocked, and we're here today on April the 23rd, 2020 with a Forex market analysis and live market trading breakdown for you. And before we get into it, we just want to pull up our disclaimer to remind you that this is for illustrative and educational purposes only. So we're going to pull up our live screen right now. We are at the www.forex-trading-unlocked.com website. We have the Euro-US dollar chart pulled up, but let's go to the dollar index and show you what's going on with this thing here. Okay. Let's get rid of this. All right, and we'll get rid of our volume here. Okay, so the dollar index had a nice little buy signal here the other day, and as of today, or as of yesterday rather, had pushed through our resistance target once again right into the lower part of our resistance band. And what does that mean? Does that mean that we're set for sideways? Well, remember, we've been calling for this market to start, all the markets to start to settle into a consolidation range, especially the major currency crosses. And I think that this is what we're starting to see. You can remember that we had obviously this wild gyration in March. We set this higher move high, low here. We set a lower move high here, then a higher move low that set us up for neutral. We had this buy signal that was triggered just a few last week, and we rode this little wave up here. And now I think this is where you're going to start to see your major currencies run into trouble as far as, or excuse me, the dollar run into trouble versus the major currencies. So let's go to the Euro-US dollar right now, where we had a sell signal that had been triggered last week. Here we have the right here with this bar right here is a dark cloud cover that had occurred and gave us a nice sell signal. Today we had probed new move lows and hit the upper part of our downside target zone. So does that mean it's over now that we're positive on the day and we're showing a little bit of strength after hitting that key support? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. We obviously hit our target zone, but there may still be a little bit more to go. Right now, like I said, if the dollar index, if that resistance is going to hold, and this would be the part where we start to establish the lower barrier for support here for the Euro-US dollar now, as the dollar starts to hit resistance and basically figure out what it's going to do, which I think is sideways for the major currencies is going to be the call. And if that's the case, that's what we're going to see in the dollar index versus the majors, not the minors. We still have a lot of other things going on. So that being said, we have our sell signal that has now hit that point as of today. So now after today's close, we will be reevaluating our short position on whether we get out of it or whether we still maintain the negative bias going into the rest of the week. So let's look at our US dollar Swiss, where we also had a complementary signal. These markets have been going in tandem versus the dollar. As you can see, they spiked higher today. However, they did not make a higher move high. So this is key. Remember how we looked at the Euro-US dollar today? It was basically an upside down version of this chart. The only thing is that the US dollar had probed much higher versus the euro versus where it did versus the Swiss. As you can see, we have this high here. This is our last lower move high after our higher move low, which gave us the neutral bias. We had this buy signal that was triggered a couple days ago, or last week rather. It was a piercing line. Today we hit the target. So now we're done with this trade as far as staying long. After today, it's time to get out of it. So we were hoping that it was going to stay up against resistance throughout the rest of the day and probe higher move highs, but then also it's only 10:30 in the morning. Who knows? It may do that again. After all, it came all the way back on its low. It is slightly positive on the day. We'll see. If we don't want to be a fortune teller here and try and second guess this trade. The day isn't over yet, so we still have to follow it through. So hopefully this continues to move higher and back in pressuring resistance. We'll know by the way the dollar index goes. Now here's one thing that I think is one of the other reasons why I think the dollar index may start to be stalling. Remember, the Euro-US dollar is what? So your biggest component in the dollar index. Your second biggest component is the pound US dollar. Now look at this. Yesterday the market sold off, or 2 days ago the market sold off quite extreme, looking like it wanted to make newer move lows. Then yesterday it calmed down. Well, here's the thing is, yesterday was a short-term pause, weak buy signal at best, called a harami buy. However, let's say that the market was to settle exactly where it was today, is right now for the British pound. That would be a short-term buy signal. Now here's something that you have to think about. If this buy signal does form after the close today, that's going to put pressure on the dollar index. So even if the euro goes the other way, I'm not saying that they're going to all go in tandem, but as far as dollar index, dollar strength being shown, one major currency has the potential to explode tomorrow on Friday, going into the weekend, going to the upside. Now, why is that? Because this 3-day pattern is called a 3 inside up day. If that does happen, then we would be targeting this upper high that we had established just recently. Now, here's something I want you to take a look at. So let's just say, for hypothetical cases here, that this buy signal doesn't happen, but it does, let's say today into tomorrow, hovers a little bit and then falls down and takes out this neckline. Well, what would that be? That would be a head and shoulders. So then all of a sudden that would give us dollar strength. That would negate our negative dollar outlook, and we're not necessarily negative, we're just no longer so bullish, thinking that we're going to get that much strength. However, if the pound was to start to unwind and hit support again and take out lows, making lower move lows, then that would be what? Indicative of a short-term bearish trend, bearish momentum, obviously bearish dollar, or a bullish dollar. But right now we don't have that. And what I am going to say is that if we do get this close like this today, like right where it's at, and then we get follow through to the upside, this could be a big deal, because then all of a sudden this helps to solidify our dollar weakness that will start to come into the market. So we have to see how this goes. So even though our other European currency crosses, we're still going with those, we haven't, remember I had said, we have to wait until today's close. We'll see what happens. Most likely we're going to get out of them. The only thing that would change that is if they all of a sudden reverse gears, dollar strength comes back, and then all of a sudden we're like, oh, hey, you know what? Because then this would also be lower. Remember, this has to close like it is right now. If it comes back and goes lower on the day, we don't have a signal. So don't try and be a fortune teller. It's only 10:35 Chicago time. So we're waiting to see if this trade does manifest. But right now we are seeing indications of dollar weakness. But now here's an extreme where we don't see dollar weakness, but sometimes we do. We get a little indication of what might be going on here. So look at this, US dollar, Turkish lira. Why do we have that up here? Well, I'll tell you why. Because as far as corona cases in the world, Turkey is 7th in the world, and it continues to grow. Luckily, their fatality rates is still at a relatively low percent. However, they are still inching higher against the curve yet. So is Iran. As long as that region continues to be like it is and continues to grow, you're going to see most likely an upward pressure for the US dollar, Turkish lira. However, like I said, it looks like the U.S. dollar is buffering against resistance, and when you have a big sell-off brewing against it with the major currencies, a sell-off in the dollar versus the major currencies, even one like this that's getting steamrolled has a chance to get a correction. Now, be careful. Every time this market's corrected, it hasn't lasted for more than 3 sessions before it snaps back. So if you're looking to be a bear here, now might be a time to liquidate some longs, especially your weak longs, because you might be under pressure before you get another run at new highs. And like I said, until like Turkey and Iran starting to flatten the curve, I don't think that you're going to be able to get in front of this freight train. So this is where dollar strength, no matter what, I think you're going to see buying opportunities. But we do have something shaping up just like we had. And now there's a reason why we're wrapping around these currencies the way we are. The US dollar Mexican peso had a buy signal here a week ago, this bullish engulfing line. We hit the target. Now here's an interesting thing. The Mexico also, as far as coronavirus, they have been climbing. So even yesterday, they were at 9,500. Now they're at 1,500. So they've gone up 1,000 cases just in a day. So that's a big deal. They have not flattened the curve yet. They are behind it right now, or at least they're behind us. So let's just say hypothetically that they are flattening the curve. Dollar weakness really comes into place. Remember how we were looking at one market with what there is a potential as far as a pattern, a head and shoulders pattern? Well, once again, we have one also shaping up here. Now, we've already had our buy signal that's run out of gas. Today, we haven't made a higher move high. It doesn't mean that we won't. This market still is strong versus the U.S. dollar is still strong versus this one. I think that's the corona curve. However, if they start to flatten, especially, we don't know, we're going into the weekend, if there's any treatments, whatever, that they all of a sudden show more promise, this market may be already overdone. So that gives us a chance to see if we break this neckline or if we make a run at resistance. So right now, I would say unless you have a signal, the buy signal is already done. If you're long, I'd be tight with your stops and be cautious, because you could get a very sharp sell-off very quickly. But like I said, if they don't flatten the curve for the coronavirus, if you start to see it uptick to like especially 11,000, 12,000 by tomorrow going into the weekend, I'd be very leery of this being a head and shoulders. I think you're going to see 26 pesos to the dollar probably before you see a big correction. But we'll see. Right now, that one trade has run its course. So that's another signal that we had over the last 2 weeks. We've had signals that have been driving the dollar stronger, and now we're seeing these other currencies where they're running out of gas. Now, the only ones where we don't want to say they're running out of gas, the dollar's running out of gas, is, like I said, in countries where the curve is not flattening, like Turkey and Mexico. But look at the U.S. dollar Canada here. Yesterday, or 2 sessions ago, it had made this higher move high. All of a sudden, boom, we have this collapse of the market today. Now, we have not made a lower move low yet, so we're coming off a higher move high. We still have to take out this lower move low, or a higher move low. Show you right here. So as long as we're above this little spot right here, which we just came down to today, we're fine. But if we bang out new lows, then that would be a higher move high and a lower move low, which is indicative of what? At least neutral. And that's where we get back to this neutral trading. This could be establishing the range where I think that the lower part has already been established, the upper part's been established, and right now we're just going to bobble around this a little bit. Maybe play with support a little bit. I don't think we're getting ready to fill this gap yet. But right now it is looking like a negative day. But who knows? It's 10:30 or 10:40 Chicago time. We'll see how this manifests. Now let's go to the U.S. dollar, Japanese yen. We've been saving the Asian currencies for last. Remember, we have a trade going on in the one binary option. And as you can see, this market's gone sideways for the past few days. So we're hovering right below it. We're only one handle breakout away. If we get a breakout to the upside, get some momentum, then our option may still be good tomorrow. But right now, this market's dead, and then I think our option is also dead in the water. So that went out when we froze. Okay, so anyhow, we're not looking at that anymore. So we have our trades on from the Euro-US dollar. We know we're still short that. We're still long the US dollar Swiss. So right now we're up in these two positions right now slightly. We took a little heat earlier today. Now it's going back in our favor. The Australian dollar, US dollar, we're taking heat on that one. That one's not working out so well for us. It barely was a profitable trade a couple days ago and just never hasn't looked back yet, and we're almost stopped out. Our New Zealand dollar, US dollar, we did lose on that signal, so that was the same situation. Regrettably, as you can see here, this market just totally rallied. Oh, that's right, we already looked at that. We covered that one. So, all right, so now we have the US dollar yen. Like I said, this one is wedging. Our Australian US dollar trade here today, you can see what's going on. Choppity chop chop. We had the sell signal last week. It still is going on. Now the thing is that we had made a higher move high, and 2 sessions ago you can say that's a higher move low potentially, or it is the low before this runs out of gas, and then we hit support again. So, but right now it looks like our sell signal is going to be negated. We'll reevaluate after today's session, most likely, since we're hovering right below our stop. If anything, we may lower it a little bit. So if it makes any higher move highs go after today, most likely will stop us out of that trade. We are still maintaining the Euro-US dollar trade. This one as well, we will reevaluate after the close today. We are pretty much right there. So if it's a profitable trade, we'll probably just either raise our stop to break even or get out of the trade entirely. So right now we don't know exactly how we're going to manage that. We have to wait for the close. So let's look at the New Zealand dollar, US dollar, and see what's going on with that. This market as well, remember, we had our sell signal from last week. We came back. Now, this is the interesting thing here. This market hasn't made a higher move high. We made a lower move low, a lower move high, lower move low today, and we came back, but we're not that extreme yet. So this is an interesting thing. If this starts to collapse and fall against support, remember that we have this low over here that we're targeting. If we fall below this, and dollar strength comes back in against these markets, well, then we still have quite a little bit of a drop yet to go. So let's go back to our Euro-US dollar, since we're running full circle on our charts. So once again, when we started this webinar, this market was slightly positive. Now it's going back on laying on support. It's slightly negative on the day. Remember, this did make a lower move low. This is a big deal. We had a lower move low. Remember, we had the low back in March, then we had this lower move high at the end of March, then we made this higher move low in the beginning of April, then we made this lower move high just last week, and now we've made a lower move low. So neutral to lower is the bias right now. Obviously, it's in the upper part of its range from today, but the day is not over. So the morning was really strong. We hit support. If all of a sudden the dollar gets strong and we see the euro fall down on support, remember the British pound US dollar, this is a pretty trade setting up, especially if it was already closing for the day. But if all of a sudden the euro goes back on support and the US dollar Swiss rallies and this turns around, if this goes negative, and especially if it takes out this neckline, be careful trying to be a bull. I don't try and run in front of a freight train, because I'm telling you, you're going to probably get run over. Now remember, all these patterns that we've been talking about, these are high probable Japanese candlestick patterns. If you want to learn how to execute these trades, go to Amazon.com and you can download the Kindle or buy the paperback version, have it sent to you, and through it you can utilize the best buy and sell patterns used for over 400 years, and you can use it in the Forex markets, the stock markets, the futures markets, the options markets. We show you how to apply these patterns into all different markets and then integrate them into your own trading strategies. You don't have to use our method, but if you learn how to use these patterns properly, which most people never have, or they were taught improperly, especially if they're intraday traders, there's a reason why they've failed to use them to be able to make anything out with them. So, but that's what you'll learn about in the book, or you just watch our videos and see how these trades manifest. They're not all winners, but they definitely, as a whole, tend to work out better than they don't, and they definitely help you to know where your risk levels should be. And also, when these trades fail, they give you momentums for reversal trades. Also, things that we talk about in the book. So check it out. Thank you very much for your time. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Forex Trading Unlocked, or go to our website, Forex Trading Unlocked, Forex-Trading